Hi there, my name is Sydney and welcome to my October TBR reading vlog. If you didn't already see that video, I already have a video up going through all the books that I'm going to read this month for my October TBR. I have a 5-category system that makes sure that I'm reading the books behind me as well as reading around the world and diversely, and I'm really loving the system I'm going through right now. So we're going to continue it. It is now October 14th, so starting this TBR a little late into the month, but definitely not as late as other months. I still have about 2 weeks, so I feel really good about completing this TBR this month, and I've got some fun books that I'm excited to read in this vlog. So today, I am about to go on my little daily walk that I haven't been on in a few weeks. So I wanted to have an audiobook set and ready, and I actually finished my last audiobook yesterday, so I am ready to start a new one. So one of the prompts this month is one of the 5 categories is cultural awareness months and cultural heritage months and identity recognition days. In October is both LGBTQ plus history month and National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And there was a National Disability Awareness Month earlier in the year, and so I wanted to pick up the book that I had as an alternative for that month, which is Year of the Tiger by Alice Wong. I was sad I didn't get to it that month, so I'm really happy this is giving me another opportunity. I guess the preface of this book is that this groundbreaking memoir offers a glimpse into an activist's journey to finding and cultivating community and the continued fight for disability justice from the founder and director of the Disability Visibility Project. In here, Alice uses her unique talent to share an impressionistic scrapbook of her life as an Asian American disabled activist, community organizer, media maker, and dreamer. And she's going to include a ton of pop culture and images and a lot of creative things that at this point, I've read a lot of memoirs for this challenge, but also because I'm trying really hard to read nonfiction. But this seems like it might be a little bit different than all of those. It's including all of these multimedia things that I'm not sure how I'm gonna get because this is an audiobook from the Libby app, but I might look on my library website and see if they're in there. So this audiobook is just under 11 hours long. I am going to go put my tennis shoes on and get a walk around my apartment complex. It usually takes me about 30-45 minutes to do the full loop that I like to do, so and I listen to most things at least 2 times speed, so I should be able to get a good chunk of the way into this morning, and then I normally continue it as I'm doing my little exercises and stretches when I get back to my room. So I will check in with you when I am back from doing all that. Okay, I got 25% of the way into Year of the Tiger, and I really appreciate how many different types of resources that Alice Wong put into this book, because we'll go from like an essay that she wrote to her reflecting on that essay in that time of life, to poetry she wrote in that time, to interviews that she did, to transcripts from her podcast that she has, and all the while she's giving context and having a very, I would say, like a lighthearted tone for very serious matters. So it's super digestible, and I feel like I'm learning a lot about her experience and how her life of activism kind of built up over her life as she continuously ran into problems throughout her health as a child, going into her teenage years, into her adult years, and how the administration passing the Accessibility Act when she was 16 years old and suddenly realizing that actually, hey, there are communities and people out there who have more access to things that disabled people need. And so there was one portion that I just read, and it was the start of her podcast, and they were talking, I think in 2017, about how in Donald Trump's first term as president, how they were trying to abolish Obamacare, and how that would have affected her directly as well as all of her other disabled community. And so she's going into seeing how it didn't pass at that time, and how like that is a celebration because all these people, that more people than you think need it. Like, it's not just like visibly disabled people, it's also people that are going into healthcare facilities who need long-term care in nursing homes and care at home and things to just live their daily life. And so they that was in 2017, and they had that was our first podcast, and then they had their second to last transcript in which they were talking about how actually, yeah, we do need to think about this in an intersectional kind of light, in which, like, yes, other activist lights like need to be shown at the same time, like they need to be thinking in conjunction with other rights that people need at the time. And so listening to this now in Trump's second presidential term, in which they are just like actively and violently going against this type of care, is just painful in a whole new way. So I am thoroughly enjoying it so far, and I really appreciate how almost every single like section they're like, yes, and see this photo and here's who's in it, you know. And so I'm definitely going to have to find the online resources for this book because I want to see these photos. Yeah, highly recommend so far. It is not enlightening in the way that like I'm, you know, learning so much, but I'm learning in the way that it's just like lived experience that I just, you know, I've never thought about, but I'm, you know, getting greater context for. And she even like called out a lot of people very, very early on, in which she was like, I don't know why you're reading this, whether it's like for an assignment or whether you're like a white cis normative person who is like trying to check off this box, which I am. But she goes, I don't care how you found this, but just like reevaluate yourself after you finish. So I really appreciate her candor throughout the entire book. She really doesn't dumb anything down. She gives content warnings at the beginning of sections that might be heavier. She's just really pulling no punches, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But now I'm actually pulling these books down behind me because I am going to leave the house for a few errands. I am going to go vote early in the Virginia general election. I am going to go to a used bookstore to try to find some books that I've been looking for. I need to go to a grocery store, and I am going to go to the library to do an hour's reading, and I am going to continue a series with the Legendborn cycle. This is Bloodmarked. I have been desperately wanting to read this, but I am also filming a different video with it, so I won't be putting my thoughts into that video. You'll see what I mean in a little bit and why I'm going to the library for it. So I'll be putting all my books about this book in this vlog, and I am beyond excited for this. I do kind of need to read the last few pages of the last book just to make sure I'm jumping in correctly, but this is a chonker. She's almost 600 pages with incredibly small font, but I just know I'm gonna be gripped the entire time. So this is the next book that we're also starting today. I did go vote. I did go to that used bookstore. I was really looking for two specific authors. One of them was Sabrina Jeffries, who is the current Regency romance author that I'm reading, and of the 3 books by her that I found, I had already read all 3 of them, so sad about that, and sad because the other author I was looking for is Alona Andrews, and that's the paranormal romance author that I'm currently reading with my book club right now, and didn't find anything at all. Only found really a few paranormal romances anyway, and I asked our guy, and he was like, I've never heard of this person in my life, so a bust on that end. But as I was going through, I did find Roman Holiday for $2, which is a book I've never seen, but I read the When in Rome series by Sarah Andrews, and that doesn't sound right. I don't know. And it's all about Audrey Hepburn movies, and the first one is Roman Holiday. So I am thrilled by that find. And then I did go to my library to read Bloodmarked, and I read for an hour. So I got to page 54, and then I just finished up the chapter. So I just finished the first 4 chapters, and I really should have reviewed the first book before I picked this up, because there were a lot of things that I had forgotten, but she did a really, really wonderful job of gently reminding us what happened in the first book, and it was so necessary. But within those first 60 pages, we really are just introduced to their circumstances now, 6 months after the last book, and we were just introduced to a lot of characters. So there's a lot more going on right now. The stakes are kind of higher. Bree is getting herself further into the society than she ever thought, and so things are cooking up, but it's really just setting the base bones for the rest of the book. I have no clue what's gonna happen throughout the rest of this book, like absolutely no idea where this is going, but it is so good. And so I was at the library, and they always have these like books for sale at all times. They're all like really nice books, and so I did actually find Starling House by Alex E. Harrow for $3. What a steal. It's their book of the month book, and so it's in perfect condition, and I really love the 10,000 Doors of January when I read it like 6 years ago. I really need to reread it, so it'll be nice to try out Starling House. I think it's perfect for fall, so maybe I'll get to it this fall. And then I came home and I checked my mailbox, and look what was in the mail for me. We got Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I am actually, spoiler, I am actually in the middle of doing an Ali Hazelwood vlog right now, so this will be read pretty soon. I'm so excited, so be on the lookout for that. So now it's actually pretty late in the day. I haven't decided whether I want to work. I probably should, at least for a little bit, whether I want to like do some deep work or if I just want to read for the rest of the day. I don't know yet, but either way, I've got a plethora of options. Okay, I went on my walk again this morning, and during my exercises and just cleaning up my room and whatnot, I got to the 50% mark, and I tried to find the online PDF through the Libby app, and I could not figure it out. So I'm gonna keep trying. Maybe I'll try like the website or the library that I'm getting it from. I don't know, but I'm definitely feel like I'm missing out on a lot of photos. This 25% was a bit more graphic in the details of like how she eats and how she how she like, you know, how more of her like normal bodily functions are deteriorating, and she's finding ways to combat this. But it's also her really appreciating the fact that like she can still eat and taste things and be a foodie, but that might not be forever, kind of thing. And so it was pretty graphic in the ways that made you uncomfortable, but it's like a real thing that I think we need to kind of understand, that like you know, there's going to be like spit cups, and there's going to be difficulties like using the bathroom and all of this. But so that part was uncomfortable in a way that it needs to be uncomfortable. I will say I got a little teary. Like I didn't actually cry, but I was like, oh, when I was walking around and she was talking about how she met President Obama as a robot. And there are photos in the PDF that I cannot have access to, but she's talking about how like she no longer is able to travel, and she had this opportunity, and she was like, I'm kind of devastated that I, you know, can't do this. But they ended up like giving her a little robot to move around and control, so she had full autonomy, and you know, she was able to look directly and converse directly with President Obama at the time, because you know, she had the ability to use this robot. And so she talks a lot about how they are part of the future, because she calls themselves cyborgs, because they're using this technology both around them and inside of them to be able to stay awake, or to stay alive. And she's talking about how there's a lot of, you know, media about superheroes, like particularly the X-Men, and a ton of other things. And so she's going in about that. So that's what this quarter was about. I'm still very much enjoying it, and it's opening my eyes quite a lot. It's still written in a very entertaining way. Like, it doesn't feel slow at any point. And if something does start to drag on a little bit, she changes to a new form of media, a new perspective that she's showing us. So it really is going by quite fast. And I really like the chunks that I'm taking out of it. I like the idea that I'm doing it in quarters. I ended up just sitting on my bed for like 10 minutes until I got to the 50% mark, because I wanted to be able to stay on that pace. So doing really well for that. I'm hoping I can continue Bloodmarked today. It's getting a little late. It's like 5:15 now, and I have a ton of work to do. But I really, really want to continue this book. I cannot stop thinking about it. I knew exactly where this book was going, and I still got super mad. I'm at page 100 now, just finished up chapter 9, and all of the big players have started coming. They had a large funeral, and the power players started spreading some misinformation that pissed me off, and it also pissed Brie off. And so now, before she takes her next moves, she now has to deal with all these people that are gonna be like, oh, this like angry black woman, and like I'm already mad for her, and it's gonna be so painful to get through that. So we'll see. I'm gonna go to bed, but I have some reading planned for tomorrow in which we're gonna get through more of this book, and it's just it's infuriating to read through this, but I have to know what happens next. Alright, it is a mountain day today, which means on my drive into the mountains, it should take me about an hour there, hour back, maybe a little bit more on either end. I will continue listening to Year of the Tiger, so I'm going to get a good chunk of the way into that because I'm not going on my neighborhood walk today. And I have special time I've planned out to continue reading Bloodmarked. I'm going to go on a hike. I'm going to go sit in my car for a little bit. I got a ton of snacks. I do have a session in the mountains tonight, which is why we're going and out, just having a whole mountain day. So I think we're going to get a ton of reading in today, and it's a beautiful weather. I am so excited. So it is now Friday, and I am unfortunately leaving town again, and I was originally only supposed to be gone for the weekend, but things changed, and now I'm going to be gone for like 10 days, which means I'm going to get back at like the 26th, I think, of October. So we're gonna do our best. I am going to bring Bloodmarked with me. I'm gonna try to finish that, and I'm going to bring my Kindle so that I can start, hopefully, Miss Burma, which is my Read the World challenge book. And after that, I do still have my priority TBR book, and I have LGBTQ plus
book that I need to read and another book off my physical TBR. So I think while I'm gone, I might try to find an audiobook that would fit one of those vibes. I don't know. This was not part of the plan, so we're gonna see how this goes. But definitely priority to Bloodmarked and to Miss Burma, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, it is well over a week later. I spent an entire week up and visiting my best friend and my mom, and I in that time read pretty much absolutely nothing. I spent many of the days just working and hanging out with them, and my nights I was just so tired that I would read for like maybe 20 minutes some nights and then pass out. Like I was just exhausted. I had some Aussie family in town too, and so it was just a very, very busy week in which I really read nothing at all, which was disappointing. So since then, I drove from my mom's apartment. It took me 2.5 hours to get up into the mountains where I had a session, and then I had to drive an hour home from there. And then the next day I drove an hour back into the mountains for another session, and then an hour back. And in that time I was listening to an audiobook, and I started the audiobook for The Kiss of Deception, which is on my priority TBR, my 25 and 25. And between all of that driving, I was actually able to finish the entire book. The first drive, so that 2.5 hour push, got me like a third of the way into the book, and I won't lie, I was struggling a lot. I don't fully remember why I had this book on my priority TBR. I think it was just like one of those books that I just like, you know, felt I missed out on the hype on and wanted to go back to. So why I chose this one, I really don't remember. And in that first third, I was honestly struggling a lot. I really wanted to DNF, but thankfully because I was driving, I was like, no, just push through, like you're fine. And so this book, it's called The Kiss of Deception, and it basically is about this princess of a very traditional kingdom, and she decides that, hey, actually, the morning of her arranged marriage to the prince of another kingdom, she's actually going to run away with her best friend, and they're going to go to this seaside town, and they're going to become barmaids, and they're just going to run away from their responsibilities, and they're just going to start new lives. Like, screw the rest of the world. Like, all of her decisions have been taken away from her. Like, she's bringing her life back. And you know what? That's already not a great thing when both of these countries and a third country are in very precarious political situations and war is definitely a possibility. You know, I'm not a princess. I've not been betrothed to somebody to stop a war, but like, I don't know. I feel like I maybe wouldn't if it stopped war. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not in that situation. So that was already just like an iffy thing, but you know what, whatever. Maybe they have other ways to stop this war, sure. The other thing that really got me though is that all she wants is to be in love. Like that's all she wants. I think she's 18 maybe. So a teenager, and sure, maybe I was like that at that time too, but like, oh my God, the emphasis on her just wanting to be in love and to like kiss somebody was painful to the point where I was like, I cannot, like I literally cannot with this girl. She has like, when was this published? Because she has the most not like other girls energy you've ever heard in your life. 2014. The most not like girls energy you've ever seen. She doesn't like the dresses and dressing up, and she, you know, she just, you know, she's strong and she's smart, and you know, she's just, you know, she can outsmart anyone, and she stands up. You know, her best friend is meek and shy, but like she'll go in and like talk somebody out of, you know, like she'll back them up with just a few words. Like she's so smart, and like it's bad, not like other girls energy. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But for the fact that she really wants to be in love, I'm like, okay. And so of course, the day that these two very hot young men her age arrive in the tavern at the same time, she's like, oh yes, and her entire world revolves around them. But it turns out that one of them is the scorned prince that she's betrothed to, and he went after her for some unknown reasons, and he just happened to show up at the exact same time as an assassin that was sent to kill her. And so the middle of the book, in which they are all getting to know each other, and there's like this cute festival that's going on. Like, it's very cute in that they're all just like trying to like live their lives, but also like the way that both boys just like immediately fall in love with her because she's like unlike any other girl they've ever seen. I was just like, oh kill me. just kill me. And then, so really not much happens aside from them all just immediately falling in love until that last third in which the plot just flies. Like, there's a lot happening all at once. Things are revealed, but nothing's like so dramatic to the point where like you don't expect any of it. But I have to say, after my drive home from that first session, it was revealed. Okay. So I don't know. I didn't really know if it was me not paying attention because I was kind of tired of the not like other girls energy, or if I was just like driving and like missed something, or what, or like I just assumed, like I just like, you know, just assumed. But the prince and the assassin have many chapters in their own POVs, and they're either titled the prince and then it talks about or the assassin, or it's given their names. And so I go through this whole thing thinking that the prince is this one character and the assassin is the other, and she's falling for one of them, and I'm rooting for one of them. But then we get to the point where the plot starts happening, and it turns out that I had the name switched. So like the guy I was rooting for was actually like the other person. Like I thought he was either the prince or the assassin. It turns out he was the other one. And I was like, wait, okay, I'm so confused, because this whole time I was thinking of him as like this job, when in reality he actually is this. And like, okay, do I root for him more or less now? Like, I don't know. And so I got home that night and I was like, wait, I'm very confused. So I actually went back and I was like, I went back through their points of view, through their point of view chapters and through their descriptions, and I was like, okay, I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna finish this book and then go to the reviews and see if anybody else had this happen to them. And when I did finish, I went through the reviews and nobody else was talking about it. So somebody else, if anybody else has read this, let me know if she intentionally wanted us to think that the love interest was one job and not the other, or if I was just dumb and I just missed it. Because even as I was going back through, I was like, no, I think she's being intentionally unclear about which boy is which. And I just made assumptions, I guess, because I didn't even know that was a mystery. I don't know. So that whole thing kind of brought it back to me, where I was like, wait, do I like that she intentionally misled us, or was I just dumb? Like, I don't know. So if you've read this book, please let me know if like the reveal of who each boy was a shock to you, or if you understood that. But yeah, nobody's talking about that in any review, so I don't know if that was a me experience or what. The main mystery that was throughout the book that I was trying to put more brain power into was that in the beginning of each chapter, it's part of some oral story, some oral tradition, somebody in some other time, nobody knows, it's very confusing. It's written very lyrically, very beautifully, but it sounds like a mother maybe is telling the story of a hero woman to her daughter maybe, and like they are in a wartime or famine time or something, but it's, you know, saying the last testaments of Gaudrel. And so at the beginning of almost every chapter, there's this little, you know, blurb from this thing. And so the whole time you're trying to figure out what this is and how our girl's magical talents, because there is some form of like knowing magic in this series, how it all plays in together. And truthfully, by the end, I'm still confused. I'm still confused. As I was going through the whole first half, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to continue this series. It is not for me. Like, I should have read this 10 years ago when I was a teenager. I would have loved it a lot more. But then I get to the end and I'm like, well, crap, like I guess I am gonna continue this just so I know what happens and so I understand what like the whole magic behind their system is like. And yes, I want there to be a conclusion to this love triangle, but it's like super clear, but it also maybe not be. I don't know. I think it's a trilogy, and I think there's like a prequel, and that prequel might be the reason why I wanted to read this book, because I was really interested in the prequel, I think. I don't know. So we have checked off a priority TBR book. Thank goodness. Unfortunately, that means I started another series. Who knows when I will continue it. So then after that session that I came back from, when I finished the audiobook for that, I was going through and I was like, all right, I need a new audiobook. So I was going through my shelves and I was trying to figure out what books I have that I can listen on audio so I can check that book off for physical TBR. And then the Louvre heist happened. And there was no other option for me on my shelves than Mr. Nice Spy. This is the only like spy, heist, robbery, crime world kind of book that I had on my shelves, and I've actually really been wanting to read this. This is the second book in a duology, I guess. I read the first book. I really enjoyed it. It's like super like super simple, like girl gets brought into the spy world kind of book, but I really loved the humor. And going into this one, I was really excited for his partner's book. This is the spy right here. And I read this whole book in a day. On audiobook, I literally could not stop. I don't know what it is about these like funny spy novels with like just like my sense of humor, like my level of unseriousness, while also like creating enough high stakes where you're like, oh my god, is everything gonna be okay? Like, I don't know what it is about these books, but I eat them up. I've read absolutely everything that Ali Carter has ever put out, and I think I've just been chasing that high ever since. And I'm so thrilled to say that Mr. Nice Spy is definitely on that list. And I got this book at a used bookstore and it's in perfect condition, and I am thrilled. Normally when I get that, I give them away afterwards, but I am keeping this book because I will be rereading it one day. This book in particular follows our main girly here, and she's a pyrotechnic engineer, which basically means she makes fireworks, and she has been told by her mom that she has this really famous actor as a father, and she's like, you know what, I'm tired of everyone making fun of me for it. Like, I'm gonna go to like ancestry.com or whatever it's called to get proof that like our DNA is the same. And so she does that, and it turns out that no, actually her father is this super famous international crime lord that just happened to have escaped from jail. He was jailed in the first book, but you really don't need the first book to love this one. And so now the CIA is like, hey, turns out he's been looking for you, actually, and now that we found you, you're gonna help us bring him down. And she's like, what if I don't want to? And they're like, all right, you have some time to think about it. And immediately, oh, by the way, after she finds out that her father is not a famous actor, he's like, oh man, she goes to this bar and she's like, I'm gonna drink my sorrows away, and runs into this creep, and this guy comes up and he's like, hey babe, sorry I'm late, and they go out to the car and she's like, hey, thanks for saving me. He goes, no problem, cutie. And so she's like, oh my god, my day's turning around. And then she goes home and the CIA is in her house, and of course the guy walks in, and it's the guy that she was flirting with, and so the creep thinks that he is her boyfriend, and so the CIA leaves and he's like, hey, I want to keep talking to you. The creep bursts into her house and is like, hey, I'm working with your father, you're coming with me. And she's like, not only if you bring my boyfriend with me. And he's like, okay. And so she and her CIA fake boyfriend are taken to the catacombs of France, where her international crime lord father is on a mission to create this super bad weapon. And he needs her help to take over his crime world. And so they are in this bunker, so it's like fake dating, forced proximity, time and time together, and these two have chemistry off the charts. Normally like insta chemistry, insta love just really pisses me off, but these two I actually really like. Their circumstances, like of their upbringings and their current circumstances, just make them really perfect for each other. He is hard of hearing, and so thankfully, her famous father had to learn sign language for a role, and so she learned sign language, so now they can talk together. And he's really into her. It's really cute. He's like, wow, and I didn't think the perfect girl exists. Like, I really love these two together. Through the adrenaline of being in such a terrible circumstance and being in forced proximity and them questioning each other and like making sure they're on the same page. She is a super badass with pyrotechnics. Like, she is like, a chemist. She's really smart. He's incredibly intelligent. He is a spy. So these two together, I loved it. And things got kind of slow in the middle when they're just like stuck at this layer for a very long time. But then the action picks back up towards the end, and you're like, oh my goodness. So like, absolutely flew through this book, perfect in our time of the heist right now. It wasn't exactly a heist, but you know, same kind of vibe. I absolutely loved it, and I'm thrilled to have been able to check this off of my physical TBR. I've been wanting to read this for a while, which means that I still have a couple things left to do for my October TBR. For the continuous series, I am still reading Bloodmarked. I am now about halfway through. This is the book that I would read for like a chapter or two and then knock out, and I am just going through this so slowly. Things have been pissing me off throughout the book. You know, just people betraying Brie basically, and just being terrible people in power, and it's pissing me off, but I really need to know what happens, and so I need to keep chugging away at this book desperately. Yesterday I finally started Miss Burma for my Read the World challenge. I'm about 15% of the way into it. I've been reading it while I eat downstairs on my Kindle. It so far has been entirely from the father's point of view of him being a young adult in a very British occupied state. And so not exactly the most interesting, particularly because I hate reading from the POVs of man, especially young stupid men. So like it's not exactly pleasurable so far, but we started getting the mother's POV, and the daughter has just been born. Like they, you know, it was just a classic, like they meet each other on the street, they don't speak the same language, but they lock eyes for about 20 seconds, and then he shows up at her place of employment, is like, I'm ready to marry you. And of course they get married, so I'm like, uncomfortable about the whole idea, even though I know it's realistic. So that's where we are so far. The last chapter that I just ended at lunch today is a fleet of planes are coming right now to bomb. So problems in the marriage, problems in the war, there's a lot going on. It's like 1941, I think, so like things are going down. So I will be reading that throughout all my meals. And then the last thing is I still need my LGBTQ plus History Month book, and so I decided to either pick up The Last Hour Between Worlds or The Treachery of Swans, and I'm devastated to learn that neither of them have an audiobook. So I need to be reading this all the time, reading Miss Burma while I eat, and then I gotta pick one of those two books up. And I don't like sit and read as much as I would like to, especially nowadays. Like I just delivered 2 wedding galleries and 2 sessions, and I have about 8 more to edit. Like, ooh, audiobooks are really the only thing that's getting me through this time of year. So I may cheat and pick up another audiobook for LGBTQ plus History Month. We'll see. I just filmed my November TBR video, so let's watch me frantically try to put these books back on the shelves. Alright, so last night I read for quite a while and got to part 3, I think, of Bloodmarked. I'm up to page 350, so things are definitely going down. They are on the move. Things are happening. I won't give away anything else aside from I have tabbed many gray tabs, which is gray is for sell, so that's going well. And then I did unfortunately decide to cheat. I didn't have this listed as what I wanted to read for Queer History Month, but I decided that I was going to pick up Rise and Divine for Queer History Month instead of some of the Illumicrate books I have above me, because I'm running out of time. Today's the 30th, unfortunately, and my friend is literally on her way. She'll be here in like 30 minutes. And I was going through, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go through all the books that I have on my shelves, if any of them have audiobooks, and none of them do. Absolutely none of them. So I was like, well, crap, let me go through Libby and see what queer audiobooks I can find, and maybe they'll be spooky. And that way I'll, like, you know, get a spooky book in, because I actually haven't read any like autumnal books yet this fall, even though it's literally Halloween tomorrow. And so I was going through, and I realized I had already checked out Rise and Divine. Like, it was already on my shelf, and it was downloaded, and it was ready for me. And I didn't realize it until I saw it in the big list, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually perfect. It's spooky, it's a witchy, like, I would say rom-com, but the series has gotten darker as we've gone along. And it gets me up to date on a series, and it's hella queer. This whole series, everyone is queer the whole time. And so it's like checking off a series, checking off queer, checking off you know, something that I already have checked out. It checks off all the boxes, and it's spooky, so this is perfect. And between me just frantically cleaning up my apartment and my kitchen downstairs, I have gotten to 64% of the way through this. So thankfully I'll get it finished probably tomorrow. We set aside some time to do some work, so while I'm editing I'll probably get it finished then. So that it will thankfully be done in October. It is the 5th book in, I don't know what this greater series is called, but the first book is Payback's a Witch, and this whole series takes place in this cute magical town somewhere. I don't remember what state they're in, but normal people can come in and out, and there's a lot of mayhem. Things keep attacking the town. People need to get together. There's a lot of dramatic. There's like 4 big families, and they each have a different kind of magic, and there's a lot of, like, they all kind of hate each other, but they're also around each other literally all the time. So the family dynamics are really interesting. There's a lot of hierarchy too within the families and like across the board. So there's a lot of politics at play here, and there's a lot of characters. And so I'm going through this, and the last time, I think I read the previous book last year when it came out, so I don't fully remember all the characters, but they obviously are recurring. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I know that couple. Oh, I know that couple, because they've been the previous characters of other books. So I do kind of wish that I had read them closer together so I could remember, but you really don't need to. In this book, they are preparing for this big festival that takes place every 20 years to celebrate the founders. And so they allow the normal people to come in and like actually see their magic when they're normally not allowed to. And so there's a lot of things happening, but in the first performance, like each place is putting on like a performance, evil has started to lurk in. And so now there's a much bigger, darker problem that is going on. And our main girlie, she is part of like the dark necromancer side of the witchy town, her family. And she in particular is, I think that she calls herself a demon eater. She is really, really good at like crossing the veil and going in, defeating demons and like bringing them back and eating their essence so that they die. And so she is dealing with a lot of grief. Both her parents have died, and the allure of the veil is really easy for her to get sucked into, and it caused some previous strain on her family and her previous relationship with Ivy, who is one of the like green magical nature witches. And so she broke her heart twice, and so now she just desperately wants to get her back because she's doing better. So it's like second chance romance, but it's also in the greater context of there's a lot more stuff going on behind the scenes. And so now 64% of the way in, the festival has started happening. We've reestablished where we are, who all these characters are, what everyone's relationships are with each other, and how they all have histories. We've reestablished that she wants to get back with Ivy, but she can't do it. And now this big evil thing is coming, and it's turning out to be a lot bigger of a problem than they anticipated. And so there's even more going on than just that, but I'm quite happy with how much I've gotten through this book in just a couple of hours, and I'm excited to check it off and check off another series and all of that. So I don't think I'm actually going to finish this whole TBR in October because my friend is coming and I'm not going to really have time to read the last couple days, but I definitely will finish in the first few days in November, and we're just gonna pretend that it was all in October, okay? It's gonna be fine. I'm gonna finish Rise and Divine, I'm gonna finish Bloodmarked, and I'm gonna finish Miss Burma, and that should hopefully finish us out. So I'll check back in probably once my friend leaves in a couple of days. All right, it's now Monday. My best friend left yesterday. We had a very jam-packed, very fun holiday weekend. I did get to finish Rise and Divine. There was just one day that we had to do some work together, and so I was able to finish out that book, and it was a really good addition to the series. It really kind of opened up their world a little bit, not too much, but just more to the powers that these families have, and I really liked the ending. I really like how they pulled everything together, and yes, parts of it feel like the characters wanted to evolve and become better for each other, and yes, they kind of put in the work, but it also felt like it was kind of given to them. But really, overall, I did very much enjoy this book, and I can't imagine. I really thought this was going to be the end for the series, but I really think she might just keep writing forever, which I'm totally okay with. It's a very fun series, so I'm happy to check that off. I
was able to read just a little bit of both of these other books. So I now am on page 350 of Bloodmarked, and I think I have probably about 3 hours of reading left to go for this book. I think that's a good estimate. And for Miss Burma, I was able to make it to the 47% mark. I'm now into part 3. This Kindle says I have 4 hours and 21 minutes left of reading. Things are getting so dark, like so dark. And I'm now questioning, like, is this really what her family was going through? Because again, I guess the main protagonist, like the lady who becomes like the first Miss Burma, is still a child right now. We're mostly still following the parents, but we've gotten to the point where now opening up a bit of other point of views, and some of them are from this child's perspective. And we're going through, and like from the dad's point of view, like we're watching him get brutally tortured, and from the mom's point of view, we're watching what it's like to be 28 with 4 children in a war-torn country, and like feeling like you have no identity and no purpose, and like you're just lost in the wind, and so you like turn to other men. And it's just like you have so much empathy for every single one of these people, and it's really hard to get through, honestly. But I also just like cannot stop reading. The problem though, I was originally supposed to be here this week, and I was going to finish up these books between today and tomorrow. But I've had some family stuff come up, and therefore I'm actually leaving again tomorrow for several more days. And so I'm going to bring both these books with me and hopefully finish them while I'm there. It's not likely that I'll get really any reading time at all, but considering I was supposed to finish these in October and it's now like November 3rd, I'm gonna try really hard to get these finished up so that I can move on to my November TBR and all the books that I want to read there. But so again, leaving home again, I'll be bringing both these books and hopefully get them finished out by the time I come back. So in the 4 or 5 days I ended up going to visit my mom, I got no reading done. It just like emotionally tough time. I didn't really feel like reading at all, and so I got home and I didn't really feel like doing anything at all, really. And so I was like, you know what, no, you were going to sit down, because I got home and I had a couple hours before I wanted to go to sleep. So I was like, you know what, no, you're gonna sit down and you're going to finish Miss Burma. Like you were going to finish it. And so it took me a bit to get back into it, but I did. I sat down and I finished out Miss Burma, and oh my goodness, this book was difficult to get through. It just got darker and darker and darker, but like I think I said earlier, I know it's realistic, and that was the most painful thing. We end up getting a bit more of the young Miss Burma, the daughter, through the rest of the book, but it still kind of ping-pongs around mostly to her parents' perspectives, but also a few times we get other people's perspectives as well. And then I finished the book. It kind of ended a bit on a cliffhanger, I guess, to where I was like trying to go to the next page, and there was no next page. Not to the point where like it was like a cliffhanger, like what happens next, more to the point where like that can't be it. And so I keep going, and there's an author's note at the end, and it's like, yes, by the way, in more words and better than what I'm about to say, yes, all of this really happened. Like, Miss Burma was my mother. These are the things that happened. These are my parents. Like, she really did meet these people. And I was like, oh my goodness. Because at this point, I've read a lot of historical fiction. And a lot of times, like, you know, certain events and people are inspired by real life, you know, like we can imagine these things have happened, but there's nothing that is like directly tied. But she's like, no, literally everything you read happened. And I'm just like sitting here, I was like, holy crap. And I think that hit a lot harder. Like, obviously reading through, it was just like kind of gut-wrenching, but there was this kind of veil of perhaps some of this might be fiction. I knew it was inspired by her mother and her family, but the fact that the author was like, no, real. Like, and I gleaned all this from years of interviewing her mother, because she didn't want to kind of give up some details, because it would be her reliving her life in a lot of ways. And so that was difficult to read. This is not an easy story, and I think that's why it needs to be shared. The writing itself and the way of reading this book, sometimes I think I also put a bit of distance between myself and the work because it was such like an omniscient kind of narration style in which each character was so deep. Like, you could tell they were real characters, but it was to the point where they could read like almost like empathically to other humans. Like, somebody would look at another character and know everything they're feeling and would react accordingly. And it was written in a very beautiful way. But it was just to the point where I was like, okay, there's no way that all of these people can read each other so well, like so well, to the point where, like, yes, even though they're reading each other perfectly, like they're still having all these familial problems and all this. So I think it was that extra layer of fiction that also took me out of it. But like, I think I needed that to know. So I could argue that it was overwritten in that way, but I think it was necessary to the story so that we were constantly understanding what everyone else went through, and maybe we don't have to believe that all these characters like know each other so deeply that they always know what they're feeling and understanding from each other, but I think it can be necessary in a way. So hard to read for sure in a lot of ways. But I was also getting a little bit confused because there are so many characters and so many things are happening, particularly towards the end as the action is kind of accelerating. And so I finished the book and I ended up Googling the author and her mother, and I wanted to see photos because I knew all this was real and I could only uncover a few. And then I went to YouTube to watch my normal videos where I want to watch the history and see modern day travel vlogs and kind of get like a more of a rounded understanding. And even through all the videos I watched, I was still confused at the end because so much happened. So much happened, and really you can only briefly go into everything without spending so much time and you know, you can't go so deeply into everything, which is why I love these books, because they do go really deeply into certain perspectives that, like, all of the videos, I could watch 100 videos and never get the same depth that I would have with this book. So even still with all of this, I don't feel like I'm super knowledgeable about Burma or Myanmar, like at all. Like some of the other countries I feel like I have a better understanding with, but this I feel like I've still only tapped the surface. So that was Miss Burma. And then the next day I still wasn't really feeling emotionally well. And so I was like, you know what, your only duty today is to finish Bloodmarked. And it took me all day to read like 200 pages. It should not have taken me that long, but it did. But I did end up finishing Bloodmarked. And can you see how I tabbed the crap out of this book? I think towards the end of finishing this book, I was like feeling better, because I think I've been doing a disservice to myself as a reader, and particularly to this book, but more so to myself, that I haven't been binging books in the way that I love to do. Like this book in particular, I think I did it a huge disservice by reading it across like 3 or 4 weeks. Like, I really think this book and a lot of books need to be read as like quickly as you can in the way that, like, instead of sitting and reading for like 20-30 minutes, I think I need to sit and read for a couple of hours and like go on a walk or like go eat in between and then go right back to reading, because reading a little bit at a time made me feel like this book, like I was still really in it, but it was going slowly and I felt like I was going in circles and I was just getting really frustrated, and I would be hesitant to return to the books. I didn't want to return to those feelings, but I knew it would be worth it. And so forcing myself to sit down and across like 3 or 4 hours, like finish out the book, towards the end, I was like, I was starting to feel more like myself and starting to feel more invested in the story. There was really only one plot point towards the end here that like really genuinely pissed me off. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like, and it all really ties back to my one major critique, and that I wish these characters were older. Like, I do not like that Bree is 16. I am sure Miss Tracy Deonn has a lot of reasons for making her 16. Personally, I do not like it. And a lot of my critiques of the way the plot goes and how the characters interact with each other entirely stems from that one decision. And I see why. Like, I see why. I just don't like it. I feel myself
desperately wanting to reach for Oathbound, which is the third book that's out so far. And I've already decided that when I reread these, because I will reread them right before the fourth book comes out, I'm not going to let myself read them across a couple of weeks. I am going to make myself sit down for like hours at a time and crank them out, because I think that is the best way to read this series. And it made me, today I started a new book, and it made me want to sit for 2 hours and like sit and read it. And now I feel a desire to go back to reading it. And so I'm feeling better, like on a personal level and on a reading level. And I'm really, really happy that I like gave myself that ultimatum to finish this book. And you can really see, like, towards the end here, the number of tabs picked up to the point where I ran out of 3 different colors and had to like go through my stocks of tabs to go back to them. Worth it. So with that, that's going to end the October TBR. Even though we are a couple days into November, that's okay. I'm quite happy with all of the books that we read in this video. I'm feeling better. As I know I just said this, but I really am feeling better as a reader right now. And going into November and December, I've already done like the 10 books I want to read before the end. I've already done my November TBR, and I'm already thinking ahead to my December TBR, but I'm also thinking about all of these other like books I want to read before the end of the year, and all these other reading vlogs that I'm in the middle of, and I'm like, oh no. Like, it's too many like literally too many books to read. But for the first time in a while, I am genuinely so excited for it. And so something over the past like day or two, I think, has just like reignited. Not that I'm in a book slump, more of like a life slump. That's still not the right word for it, but that's kind of what I've been feeling. One last thing, this morning I woke up to the notification that this channel officially hit 1,000 subscribers. I just really want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being here. Creating this channel has really brought it out of me, really. I've always been creative, I've always been business minded, and although I have other businesses, this one has just lit my soul on fire for the last year. And I've never been so consistent and so invested in a project as this. And so to see literally 1,000 people subscribed is just the best news. So again, thank you so much for being here. It really means the world to me. And I love making videos for YouTube. And I hope I continue to do it for a very long time. So again, thank you so much for being here.